Hello and welcome to Session 3, Workshop 9, Falling in Love with EdTech for Littles. If you're enjoying the learning today, you can pay the joy forward by going to the EdCollab site and finding out how you can donate to Brotherhood Sisterhood Soul, our adopted charity. Because the EdCollab gathering is a day of free learning, we invite you to donate what you would have spent on coffee, lunch, or even registration for an amazing day like this to pay it forward to support others. Today we welcome Stephanie Ross, Amie Navarro, Laura Amendola, and Stephanie Coia for their session, Falling in Love with EdTech for Littles. Stephanie Ross is a reading specialist at Kelly Elementary School in West Orange, New Jersey. She just began her 29th year as an educator, 6 years with kindergartners, and 22 years as a reading specialist. Joining her is Amie Navarro, a kindergarten teacher at Kelly Elementary School. She just began her 9th year as an educator, having taught preschool for 1 year and kindergarten for the past 7 years. Laura Amendola is a teacher at Kelly Elementary School also, and this is her first year teaching 4th grade, having previously taught 1st grade for 4 years. And Stephanie Coia just started her 21st year of teaching. She's taught kindergarten through 3rd grade, currently teaching 2nd grade at Kelly Elementary School. What a lucky school to have all of you amazing teachers there. If you're on Twitter today, friends, you can share your learning using the hashtag #TheEdCollabGathering, a space, and the hashtag 9. And now I'm excited to introduce Stephanie Ross, Amie Navarro, Laura Amendola, and Stephanie Coia.
Thank you, Jessica. Hi, I'm Stephanie Ross.
Amie Navarro. Laura Amendola.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Coia.
Welcome to Falling in Love with EdTech for Littles. So with that, I have to ask myself, why technology? Why are we even using technology? Well, for me, it's about the mindset, to empower students to become digital and global citizens and to bridge the homeschool connection. We are so excited that you are joining us. Tweet us at EdCollabGathering number 9 with any questions or comments you may have.
And we just wanted to give you a little background about how we got started using technology with our littles. So last September, when we came back to school, in our classrooms, we found these big gray metal carts, and inside those carts were a class set of Chromebooks. And this was great because the previous year we had 5 Chromebooks to share in our classrooms. So this was exciting to be going one-on-one with the Chromebooks. However, it was also a little overwhelming because now we had to figure out how we were going to integrate technology into our daily teaching, as well as how we were going to use it to amplify our students' learning. So our district did provide us with some professional development. We have an EdTech team that introduced us to Seesaw and Flipgrid and Padlet to get us started. We also have the great support from our K through 5 tech integration specialist, Diana DaCosta. I want to give a shout out to her. Who would come into our classrooms and really encourage us to just try things out. And she really put us in the mindset that we didn't have to be experts at technology to use technology in the classroom, as well as, it wasn't always going to go perfect. So we took her advice and the support that we had been given, and we started trying things out with our students.
Next slide, please. So what you're looking at now are some resources that we have used, and these books are wonderful resources to help you get started. Kristen Zimke's Amplify will give you lesson ideas and help you understand the importance of using technology to amplify learning and not just for playing games. Christine Pinto's Google Apps for Littles will give you step-by-step information for teaching your littles how to log on to their devices if you don't have access to Clever Badges. She also provides many lessons that you may implement right away. My favorite quote from this book is on page 5, where she says, and I quote, "I have my kindergartners log into G Suite on Chromebooks the 2nd day of school," end quote. If kindergarten students are capable, all students are capable. Jimmy Casas's Culturize will give you tools for transforming the culture in your school. All too often, our schools become a breeding ground for negativity among faculty and staff. Culturize will help you transform your mindset and your school culture. A positive school culture affords teachers opportunities to try new learning experiences and to amplify learning. Next slide, please. You may be wondering why we should use technology in our classrooms when we all complain that children spend too much time on their devices. Well, effective use of technology amplifies learning. We do not simply play games or fill in worksheets, but we teach our students to share their voice and their thinking to amplify their growth. Effective use of technology also amplifies insight. Amplifying insight develops critical thinking and problem-solving skills. It gives us a greater understanding as we become digital citizens. Effective use of technology also amplifies access. Technology levels the playing field and allows every child, regardless of their ability, to grow and glow.
We would like to know how you amplify learning in your classroom, so please tweet us and let us know.
So it's really not about the technology. It's really about amplifying the learning. Next slide, please. It takes a mindset shift for some of us to think of social media as a resource for professional development and resources. Twitter offers a wealth of free information at your fingertips. A hashtag, or as some of us oldies call it, the pound sign, is a keyword or phrase used to describe a topic or theme. Hashtags categorize information and makes it easily searchable. These are just a few examples of hashtags to search and follow for a wealth of free resources. As a side note, Facebook also offers a wealth of free information. If you are thinking about participating in this year's Global Read Aloud, there are several Facebook groups dedicated to connecting and sharing free resources. Just do a quick search and you'll find a stockpile of free and valuable, easy to implement ideas and connections. Next slide, please. So for Google Classroom, think of it as a filing system. Google Classroom allows teachers to create classes, post assignments, organize folders, and view work in real time. Classroom eliminates time spent looking for and sharpening pencils. You may create multiple classrooms, which allows you the opportunity to create a classroom for each subject you teach. This eliminates the need for all those pesky notebooks that students often lose and take up space in desks or on shelves. If you assign homework, this also eliminates the age-old excuse of my dog ate my homework or I lost it. If you choose to invite parents to your classroom, it is also effective because they are able to see their child's assignment and work in real time. Google Classroom makes it easier for teachers to write sub-plans. You may load up your classroom full of assignments in advance, schedule the time you want it to be accessible to your students, and not worry about making copies. Classroom also helps substitutes who really don't want to teach because you know the students have access to authentic assignments and keeps your pacing on track.
So the way I got started with Google Classroom is when Steph came to me and actually said, I created a Google Classroom for your class and we're going to try it out. So of course I said, all right, let's give it a shot. And we started just really small by posting yes or no questions based on big books that we were reading for shared reading. So what we would do is have the kids put their Chromebooks out before lunch. So they were already at their seats. They would come in, log on and come into the classroom and answer the questions. And once we saw that they were more than capable of navigating, getting on their computers, getting into the classroom, we decided to add more things to that. And we would push out assignments, especially Padlet links.
We also started small. Steph came into the classroom and helped us out. We began with the Do Now questions, Wonder Wednesday for Wonderopolis, Thankful Thursday, Fun Friday, and the kids just answered the questions, very basic. And then from there, we took it another step forward and we created the ELA classroom, a math classroom, and a Wonderopolis classroom. So we would push out assignments through there, such as things through Padlet, as Amie said, and we also used it for subplans. Even when I was out, I was able to quickly type in a question and the students would answer it, and they were like in awe that their teacher wasn't there, but still asking them questions. So they have a lot of fun with it.
And in my classroom, we set up a classroom and I had the students bookmark it onto the bookmark bar for easy access. And then I used it to push out their Padlet and create assignments as well. I thought it was easier to push out the links through Classroom. I also used Google Classroom to push out digital issues of Scholastic News. So each child would get an issue. They could either read it or listen to it. They were also able to watch the videos and play the skills games, which they really enjoyed. And I also thought it was great for leaving assignments when I was absent. Students were able to get into the classroom, complete the assignments, and I didn't have to worry about leaving copies for my substitutes.
Next slide, please. Padlet is a digital Post-it note platform. It's great for snippets of information that one would write on a Post-it note. On the slide, you can see a few examples of Padlets that we created. The Padlet on the bottom right is from Poem in Your Pocket Day last year. The whole school was able to write or record an original poem and attach an illustration. This amplified student voice because it created a larger audience. It also gives students who don't know what to write ideas because they can see others' work.
So I absolutely love Padlet, but I did not always have that type of relationship with Padlet. When I was first told that I should try it, immediately I was like, no way. I don't know if my kids can handle it. I don't know if I can handle it. I don't think I'm going to do it. But after hearing about how great the drawing tool was, it was a really large box for the kids and that it was pretty easy to navigate for them. Again, with Steph having my back, I was like, all right, we'll give it a shot. And I vividly remember the first time I did it, I actually picked up my phone, I texted Steph. Luckily, she's right next to my room. And I was like, come in here, rescue me, get me out of this nightmare. I don't know what to do. And after she talked me out of that, she decided to help me out the next time. And after a few times, we finally got ourselves going. But there actually were times where in the middle, I literally just told the kids, shut your Chromebooks, we're done, I'm done, we're moving on. But we did stick with it. And the kids actually became really enthusiastic about it. And they would actually ask me, can we do a Padlet today? Can we do a Padlet today? So we all started falling in love with Padlet. They easily, figured out the drawing tool. Then they were actually searching on the internet and inserting pictures into their Padlet. And one of the kindergarten Padlets that is up there was actually one of our first completed Padlets of Quick as a Cricket. And once we saw this product, we were sold. It was just the greatest thing. We couldn't get over it. So although we did have some difficulties in the beginning, it was definitely worth sticking with it. And actually, I would do a weekend news journal with my kids every Monday, and we turned this into a Padlet, and we made a weekend news Padlet. And now Monday mornings, the kids would just come in, get their Chromebooks, and they just kept adding to their journal entry. So it really turned out to be amazing.
We had a lot of success with Padlet in first grade too. If you're looking at the slide, one of the examples is the Earth Day one. We did a KWL for that. Then the one next to that, the Starburst, is a predictions Padlet. So we previewed the text in An Extraordinary Egg, and the students first typed in what they thought was inside of the egg. Then we read the story, and they went back and updated it. One of the things that I noticed right away with Padlet was that I received a lot more from the students than I would have if we were using an ordinary worksheet and pencil. And then once they learned how to add images, it's just like a beautiful feed, a beautiful display of what they're learning in their work.
And we used Padlet in second grade for a brainstorming wall for writing. We talked about being a writing community and how writers share their ideas. So rather than us making one giant class list where I was writing their ideas, they all got to do their own list of ideas. For example, we did a spring things Padlet, and they were to write all things that they thought about when they heard about spring. And then they shared each other's ideas and they used that for their writing. We also participated in a Flat Stanley school-wide Padlet activity set up by our reading specialist, Ms. Ross. And I read the book out loud to my students, and then afterwards they would go respond to a question. There was several for them to choose from about what we had read. And as they were responding, they started to see not only their classmates' responses, but they started to see that there were other kids that they were friends with in other classes that were responding. And they were really excited about this. It was kind of breaking down the walls of our classroom. And then I also used it with book clubs within my own classroom. Several children would be reading a book, and afterwards they would respond to their thinking. And that was a good way for me to monitor their comprehension. And it was also a place for us to start our, a talking point for us to start our discussions. And then I also used it for writing too, for in the morning. My kids loved, we had Would You Rather Wednesdays, where they had to choose between two things, maybe an adventure to the moon or an adventure under the sea. And then they had to give reasons to support it because we were learning how to give evidence to support our writing. And that became a regular Wednesday thing because they enjoyed it so much.
Just to add on to what Steph said, I think the kids, that was one of the things that the kids loved. They loved being able to see everyone's work.
Yes.
And it kind of got them talking in this community like, wow, that's your favorite animal. This is mine. Did you see what I did? I like the picture you took. So I think it actually brought them together when they wanted to see each other's finished product, and they were excited then about sharing their work. It kind of took away the scariness of getting up and maybe reading your paper. They were excited to see everyone's work just popping up on the screen. So I think it kind of brought the kids together also.
And I also found that kids who wouldn't usually add a lot to a group discussion would add even more to the Padlet.
Yes.
So again, it's all about amplifying the learning. We originally got the idea for using Padlet for book clubs from LiveBits. Liv is an 11-year-old phenom who is taking the digital literacy, student voice, and digital for good world by storm. You can follow LiveBits at the LiveBits for more ideas on using Padlet for book clubs or for almost anything in your classroom. Next slide, please. Another platform we use is Seesaw. Seesaw is a student portfolio system that documents evidences of learning. Students are able to write, draw, and record in Seesaw. It is also another avenue for keeping parents connected with their children while they are at school. If you invite parents onto your Seesaw account, they will only be able to see their child's work. So it's confidential and secure. Parents are able to leave comments for their child, which in turn motivates their children to work smarter.
So I pushed out Seesaw pretty early in the year, and it was the first platform we tried. So we really only kind of dabbled with the drawing tool and the labeling tool. The kids actually, again, loved doing something new, and they enjoyed that when we went back onto Seesaw that they could go back and see work that they had posted before that. We ended up using Seesaw a lot for math. We started using it more as our exit ticket, which was great because then I could go back on and see who was really grasping what we were talking about.
We used Seesaw early on too. For Techie Tuesday, the parents came in, we read the story of the Magic Hat, and then with their parents, they took a picture and drew a little special hat on. They had a lot of fun with that. So from there, I used it to apply what they had learned in different lessons, mostly with poetry. They would read the poem, illustrate it, and then record themselves reading the poem for fluency. We also used it in math for skip counting. They took a picture of the number grid and then they used the drawing tool to mark the spot that they were skip counting. I also noticed that the parent involvement on that was really great. The parents would log in, get to see what their child had posted. They would write a comment about it, and then the children would log in and comment back, and they really loved that feature.
And Laura's class and I actually collaborated about the Olympics, which was great because this was before we got into Google Classroom, I think. So Laura pushed it out on her Google Classroom and we partnered our kids up. So it was great for my kids to kind of have a one-on-one teacher, and they kind of went through it together, and her kids then let my kids do the drawing and her kids would type things in. So it was a really great way for our kids to collaborate and learn from one another.
And the engagement between over 40 kindergarten and first grade students was amazing to see. They were all on task, learning and doing what they were supposed to be doing, and they were having a lot of fun.
And the best part was that Laura's first graders knew more about Seesaw than I did. So they were teaching my kids things that I didn't even know about yet. So it worked out well.
Yeah.
Seesaw is actually the first platform that I try with my students as well. I think it's a great starting place if you don't know where to start, because they have an activities library that you can get lots of ideas from. And you can also use the activities library to create your own activities, get an idea and make it fit for your classroom. So we started with something simple. It was October. There was a pumpkin that you could decorate. So my kids practiced using the drawing tool, and they practiced using inserting text. Later, I used another activity from the activities library. We were learning about character traits in our classroom, and the students took a picture of themselves, and they labeled themselves with character traits that they felt they had. And then I added to the activity that they had to do a recording where they added information about how they demonstrated those characteristics. We also used it to share our stories for Writer's Workshop rather than using the author's chair. students had the opportunity to choose to record themselves on Seesaw. And it was kind of interesting because as they did it, they got to hear themselves back, and they would say, no, I need to re-record it because I talked too fast, or you can't hear me. So they got to, see them, how they were sounding to others.
There's accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was also great too. The parents then could hear their stories at home, and then they would comment on them, and the kids just love to get comments from their parents. It's great.
So again, it's not really about the tech, it's about amplifying the learning and the collegiality. Next slide, please. So Flipgrid is a video discussion platform that promotes student voice through social learning. And who doesn't love to be social? Regardless of their ability, Flipgrid gives every student an opportunity to share their voice, thinking, and evidence of learning. Flipgrid bridges the classroom, school, and world connection because it is accessible by parents and students at any time. It's perfect for summarizing, fluency practice, reading responses, and also for exit tickets.
So I used Flipgrid again at the beginning of the year when we started doing Global Read Aloud. Being that it was the beginning of the year in kindergarten and the children have not really mastered writing, it was a great way to give the kids a chance to share their voice. So we would record what our favorite Global Read Aloud book was. They would explain why. And then again, the kids loved that they could watch everyone's videos. It was like a little movie of everyone explaining what their favorite book was and what their favorite part of the book was. And again, it just created this classroom community of discussion.
I agree. We also used Flipgrid in first grade a lot for fluency. For example, during Dr. Seuss week, they chose their favorite Dr. Seuss book and they would read it into Flipgrid. They also, like, Flipgrid has an option to add little stickers, and it really, their little personalities would come out with the stickers that they chose to put on their picture. We also used it for parent involvement, which I will talk about later.
Next slide, please.
And we used Flipgrid for a lot of reading response activities. The one that you see up on the screen is one that we did about, we learned about author's purpose in class, why an author chooses to write the book. So I created a Flipgrid to review what we had learned the previous day. And I also modeled for them how to respond using a book that we had read together. We watched it together at first, and then the kids were able to go back and rewatch my direction video and my sample before they did their own. So this was a sample that you can watch.
Next slide, please. So if you haven't made an interactive bulletin board, they're really a lot of fun. It is quite simple to print QR codes through both Flipgrid and Seesaw to develop the interactive bulletin boards. This slide shows you one of Laura's first interactive bulletin boards, and I'll let Laura tell you more about that.
So for parent conferences in March, I decided to ask my students what they've been learning this year. One of the things I get from parents a lot is their students come home, their children come home, and they'll ask them, what did you do today? And they'll just say nothing, or I don't know.
We don't learn it.
So yeah, so this time they were actually able to get a response. We used Flipgrid for this, and then I just very easily printed the QR code, hung it up. We hung up directions for the parents to follow. There's free QR code apps, or if you have an iPhone, there's a QR code reader in the camera app. So the parents were able to listen to what their children were learning that year, and they absolutely loved it. I got great feedback from the parents about that.
It was so cute.
Very good. Next slide, please. Wonderopolis is a free website that provides daily thought-provoking questions. The students are able to listen or read the wonderings.
So we did Wonder Wednesday, which I pushed out through Google Classroom. The students would read the question, type in their answer to it, then go back and read what the actual answer was. This was a lot of fun for them because a lot of the questions were kind of outside of the box. Some examples were, how can video games be good for you? That was a favorite. They had no idea that they could be good for them. Why are there more different types of dogs than there are cats? So they took a lot of these questions, and it was exciting for them to find out the answers. And then it always led to a discussion about something else. And it just kind of took off from there. And the students really enjoyed doing Wonder Wednesdays.
My class my students that you had last year have already asked me, are we going to do Wonderopolis this year? So
Good.
put it on my list.
Next slide, please. So ChatterPix is a great app for all ages. It's an app that allows you to give voice to a photo and make anything talk. ChatterPix is an excellent tool for enhancing student voice. Stephanie will share a way she used ChatterPix with her second graders.
I came across ChatterPix while doing a PD in your PJs on Seesaw. They were talking about making Valentines and how to get the Valentines to talk with a student's message. So it looked like a lot of fun. So I kind of looked into ChatterPix a little bit more, and I tried to figure out where I could use this in my classroom. So at the time we were doing a Black History Month project, and usually I have my kids do the research, do a written report and an illustration. But this is where I decided to use the ChatterPix, and I kind of created a script outline for the kids to follow so they could talk as if they were the person they researched. They still did their illustration, and then they made their illustrations talk as that person. And that's an example of mine that I did with them, Ruby Bridges that I created to show my students on the screen.
We used, excuse me, ChatterPix during math. The students drew shapes. We were learning about shapes, and they drew, they chose a shape, and then drew the math on through ChatterPix, and they were able to tell me what attributes their shape had. And we also did shape jokes, excuse me.
So I remember Steph and Laura coming into my room showing me these videos, and I was just kind of like, what is this? And they explained to me that it was ChatterPix and what it was, and that they thought it might be great for kindergarten, that I should try it. So I decided, again, of course, I'll definitely try it. And it was a great way to add a voice to our work and kind of really make it come to life. For my kids who were really shy or struggling writers, and especially some of my ESL kids that I had, it was a great opportunity for them to be able to share their work and not feel so uncomfortable about it. So the videos on the screen are two of my kids giving a voice to their Duck Rabbit character. So we read the book Duck Rabbit, and then they had to decide whether they thought the character was a duck or a rabbit and explain why they thought that.
And in ChatterPix, I just want to say, when I first started using it, it was a lot of work. I was doing a lot of the work. I took the pictures. I helped the kids draw the mouths on the person, and then later, as they used it more, I had printed out directions, and then they were able to do it all on their own, following the directions. So it was a lot of work at first, but then they were able to become more independent, and it was really worth it. They really had fun with it.
And we actually started very primitively with ChatterPix on our cell phones because we didn't have access to it on any of our devices. So don't be afraid. Let the kids use your cell phones. Mm-hmm. It was fine. ChatterPix worked just great. So next slide, please. If you've ever Skyped or participated in a video chat, you're familiar with the idea of a Google Hangout. Hangouts are great for connecting with parents and grandparents from afar. You can bring virtual field trips into your classrooms via Google Hangout. Google Hangout opens up a world of possibilities. If you can dream them, you can invite them into your classroom via Hangout.
So I got introduced to Google Hangout when I signed on to do Global Read Aloud. My kindergarten class connected with a kindergarten class in Wisconsin. So of course it was, how do we do this together? Easy, through a Google Hangout. So we used the Google Hangout for our classes to meet each other, and my kids asked the kids from Wisconsin questions and vice versa. And that's kind of how we got started. And then we would set up weekly or bi-weekly Google Hangouts and have the kids discuss books. And discussing with the other teacher, we decided to do a reader's theater. So my class and her class, each took parts in the story, and we were going to do this reader's theater over a Google Hangout. And Steph came in, Diana DaCosta came in, and it was so cute. It really worked out well. After we finished, we were kind of talking and saying, this was really amazing. I don't think the kids understand that they just completed this reader's theater with kids in another state. So I took out a map and showed them again, these are the kids you were just doing this show with. They're in Wisconsin. We're here in New Jersey. They really weren't grasping it. So we were kind of trying to come up with ideas about how they would understand what actually just took place. And we thought of maybe their parents. They know their parents are either at home or at work. If we did a Google Hangout with them, it might be like, wow, wait a minute. I thought they were at home. Now they're kind of in my classroom. What's going on? And we came up with the idea of having mystery readers where parents would sign on to be our mystery reader. And we would do this over a Google Hangout. and it just took off. And the great thing about it was that it also built that homeschool community. The kids knew that their parents were still super involved in what they were doing. And for parents who are working and can't always come to things that we have out at school, it was a great way for them to be involved. And we did World Read Aloud Day. And believe it or not, most of the parents I know in my class, and I'm sure some of the others, ended up doing World Read Aloud Day with us over a Google Hangout. So it really took off.
We did in first grade, our first Google Hangout with Amy's class, actually. And even though they were just down the hall, these kids got really excited about it. So we continued with it using also Mystery Mondays. The parents would read from work or wherever they were located. And the students didn't know who was reading that Monday. We did it every Monday morning. So they would get really excited, you know, whose mom or whose dad it was going to be. Then we use it also as a way to celebrate students' birthdays for those parents that couldn't come in the classroom and read their favorite story. They read it through Google Hangout. One of my favorite days that we used it was our 100th School of Day celebration and Valentine's Day fell on the same day, and a student happened to be out sick. We did a Google Hangout with him from his house, and he was able to share his 100th day celebration project and participate in Valentine's Day. And the smile on his face was just priceless. He was so excited to still be a part of things, even though he was homesick.
I personally didn't use Google Hangouts last year, but from hearing what my colleagues have to say and the success that they had with it, it's another thing on my list with Wonderopolis to try out this year.
Next slide, please. Storybird is an online story writing platform that allows students to write their stories online, and it also has graphics to inspire young writers.
So one of our fourth grade teachers actually came to both Laura and I and asked if we would want to collaborate on Storybird and have the kids write these stories. So we said, definitely, anytime the kids can work with kids in other grades, they just learn so much. They love it. They look forward to it. It's really exciting. You really see such engagement in it. So of course we said definitely. So basically the fourth graders partnered up with our kids, and they picked a story that they wanted to write, and the fourth graders would kind of type the story as our kids were dictating and kind of telling them what the story should be. But it was a great way for them to collaborate now with kids that were even older than us.
And the finished product was amazing.
And the older kids love teaching the little, so
Yes.
that's always a bonus.
Right, it's a bonus all around.
Everybody wins.
Storyboard That is an online story writing platform also that allows you to write in comic book or graphic novel form with many choices of graphics that you can drag and drop into your storyboard. Storyboard That is an excellent platform for writing in sequence, like beginning, middle, and end, and timelines for social studies. Next slide, please.
So basically what we shared with you today are our successes, but that does not mean there were not a lot of challenges along the way. One of the biggest things is having support, and we're fortunate enough to have had that support. Not only do we have an amazing tech team at our school, we have 100% support from our principal, Dr. Clara, our amazing reading specialist, Steph Ross, Diana DeCosta, our tech integration specialist. We just really have the support of each other as well. So we go in each other's classroom, help each other out. And that is a big key to making this successful. And again, we just rolled this out this year. So this was a year-long process. This did not happen overnight. But the more you stick with it, the easier it does get. And I know as teachers, it's really hard sometimes to let go of that control and put it on the students. But we have to trust in them, because at the end of the day, they actually knew more about this than we did. And I promise you, the outcome is so worth it.
I agree. You definitely have to, don't be afraid to just let go of some of your control and let the students do their thing. You're both going to be learning together. And like Amie said, I can promise it's an amazing experience.
We want to leave you thinking about the why. Why would you infuse technology into your classroom? Grab a friend and try something new on Monday. And remember, it's not about the technology, it's really about amplifying learning.
We hope we've given you some ideas to use in your classrooms. Tweet us and let us know what you're going to try, what you do try, and how it went.
Next slide, please. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Let me unmute my mic. That was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all those amazing tools. I can't believe how much you've empowered even the littlest learners, and what the domino effect will be on that for years to come for those kiddos, like to cultivate curiosity and creativity just throughout the rest of not only their educational lives, but their personal lives as well. So bravo. Thank you so much for taking the time to curate all those resources and build this presentation for moving forward this profession, really. So bravo to all of you and to the staff that supports you in that work as well. Just as a reminder, if you popped in midway to this amazing session, that the full video will be archived on the EdCollab website, so you can view the entire video and all the amazing resources shared today. Our next session starts at 2 Eastern, and I'd just like to share a little preview of, preview of those slides. So let's see, I can pull up session. Let's see if that's big enough. So these are some of the workshops we have coming up in session 4, starting in about 15 minutes at 2 p.m. Eastern. So we look forward to continuing our learning today. And now's your time to take a break, get up, stretch, maybe have a snack, grab a quick lunch, and settle in for session 4. So again, thank you for sharing your time with us today, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you, viewers.